Alright guys, so we've got the first frame drawn here. As you've seen in the previous video, having these grids will make it very easy to draw your frames. So make sure that you've got your grid and levels organized first. That's step number one, very important step. And then you can start drawing your members. So if I just look at it in the 3D view, now what we need to do is just copy this frame at the right increments, which is 6,400 millimeters. So if I go to the floor level, the only members I can see in the floor level is the columns only. So rather than just copying from here, let's go to the side view, which is we can see the columns and the rafters to make sure that we copy all the members. I can select them all, or alternatively you can select them from the 3D and then go to any view you want to. They're all selected already without pressing escape, obviously. But just to be on the safe side, go to the side view, select the columns, the two columns and the two rafters. Just please have a look at the way I'm selecting from left to right. That means that will select all the members. They are fully included in my selection box here. If I select from right to left, that will select all the other members or all the other objects on the screen which are crossed with my selection. Look at it. If I'm crossing these grid lines, they are getting selected. That's not what we want. We don't want to copy the grid lines. We just need to copy the columns and the rafters. So I'm selecting left to right. We should be familiar with those at this point of time. So that will straight away take us to the modify tab. I can choose copy, and I can copy from, it's asking me what's your starting point, or what we call it base point on AutoCAD. If you are familiar with AutoCAD, that means where am I copying from. So I've got the members selected, but it's asking, okay, select that base point, and then from there we can start selecting distances. You can click anywhere on the screen, but easier, just click on the grid lines, which is on the outer side. You don't have to click somewhere on the inside and start looking at the which point you clicked here doesn't match that point there. Just click outside the rafters and the columns, just on the edge of the grid line. Here, so I selected my base point, which is this point here. Now it's asking me where do you want to copy it to. If I click here, I didn't click yet. If I click here, that's it. That will copy it there and will stay there. I'll click now. That's it. And now that exit the copy function. That's not what we want, because we want to copy it multiple times. So what we can do, they are still selected. I can press copy and choose multiple. It's always better to keep the constraint on. Constraint, it's similar to ortho in AutoCAD. That means I can go just vertical or horizontal. I can't go on an angle. Look at it. If I choose, this is my base point, I can just go horizontal or vertical. Okay. If I don't have the constraint on, I can go at any angle I want, which is very messy. So let's keep the constraint on, and we click multiple. I can paste at multiple location here, and that will show me. Press escape a couple of times. That will show us our frames. These are the frames that we wanted to for our warehouse. This is the first step of drawing the warehouse. Now we need to start placing the elements between these frames, including bracing, struts, beams, all other structural components. So we'll start with struts first. We'll place a strut in the center of the rafters and another strut at the two ends here. Like, we'll keep it away from the apex point, about 200-300 millimeters, just to allow for the connection here, and the plates will be very crowded point. Always try to avoid the joint between two members, because there are connections will be designed there. So we need to keep enough space between them. So if I look from the west elevation, choose my shaded view. So it's better not to have anything at this point or that location here. We've got lots of components will be going at that location. So if I need to place my struts, now I will use the beam function, typing BM. Now if we are going to draw these beams or the struts between the rafters, First of all, we have to choose the right size. If we go back to our specification, the struts are specified to be 75 by 75 by 6 millimeter thick square hollow section. So we don't have that on, so we load up a new family. We go to the square hollow sections, SHS, under the Australian standard square hollow sections. There we go, and that's the 350 grade. We scroll down to the 75 by 75 by 6 millimeter thick, and we choose these sections. I've got the section loaded into our library in the project. So we will need a strut in the center of these two rafters, and another strut here, and a strut on the edge, so we can start placing the bracing between them. Now, to start with, if I draw my strut from this point to that point, first of all, I can't click. If you get to a point that you are drawing in 3D, which is the way we place bracing and struts in 3D easier, I can't select where I'm connecting to. That's because your 3D snap is not checked, so just tick the box for 3D snapping. Now, as you can see, I can select the midpoint of these two rafters. I can connect between them, but still, let's try to draw it anyway. We placed our strut here. If I look at my strut and I look at it from one of the side views, say here, and I'll change my view to wireframe. So my strut currently, look at it, it's not on the same angle as my rafter. I'm looking for this section here to be rotated the same angle as my rafter. So to achieve that, we'll go back to 3D. I'll delete this member here, and what we're going to do, beam, we've got the right section, but instead of drawing in this plane here, what we're going to do, we're going to set our plane. Sorry, I just have to press escape twice to exit that, and set our plane first. Pick a plane, or choose the plane, the right plane that I want, which is the top of the rafter. That's the plane we want, because we want this section to be rotated by that angle. And then I go to beam, and we've got the right beam. I've got the 3D snapping turned on. I can just select my strut to be drawn. Escape a couple of times, go to the west elevation. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Now, we said we need another one at the top here, and another one between the two columns. Okay. We can copy this strut easier from the west elevation or the short elevations. Choose copy. Want it to be, as you can see now, the strut is copying on a plane parallel to the rafter slope, which is what we want it to be. So roughly we want the strut to be here. If I look at the measurements, about 7020 millimeters, so 7020. Just type it in to make sure I've got the right location, and again press escape a couple of times. If I copy this to the top here, want it to be just somewhere about here. I think 6700 looks the right number for us. Okay, now obviously these struts won't be sitting here at the top of the rafter, so we will try to move them down about 200 millimeters down to sit within the rafter depth. So to achieve that and move these struts slightly down, about 200 millimeters down, we can select these struts here. I can select one of them by typing SA. That will select all the members in my model that has the same cross section or the same member. So anything with a section of 75 by 75 by 6 will be selected by just typing SA, select all. Now all of these three struts are selected. I'll try to move them down 200 millimeter. Now, as we've seen, because I've got the constraint to the top flange plane, all I can move them just to the side. I can't move them up and down unless I can just click on this joint. That means I'm saying, okay, disjoin this member from the plane it was drawn in. Okay, so it was drawn in the top flange plane. I'm just I just disjoined it from that plane. So now I can move it up and down. I can just go vertical and type 200, and that will move them all 200 millimeters down. Okay, so we've got our, let's look at them in 3D. We've got our struts all drawn in the right location where we want them to do. We can look at them from the side view if you want to, just double check, and I can change that to wireframe, see through. This is the right location. Look at it, it's drawn from the center line of this rafter all the way to the center line of that rafter there. Perfect. Okay, so we need to create the same thing here. These struts, we need to create similar struts on the other side. If we go to, I can just even from here select them and select the third one, and I can mirror them to using the mirror of choosing to an existing axis. So this is the axis I'm looking for. I can just mirror them to the axis, and if you look at it in 3D, that just mirrored these to the other side, or I could have done it from the west elevation by mirroring to this axis here, okay, to this grid line. So we've got our struts located. Now our next step to start drawing our bracing. So I'll go obviously to brace. The same thing has a shortcut of PR, and that will take me to the function of drawing a brace, or I can just simply go to structure and brace. Okay, so if I need to draw the brace, the first thing we need to choose the right section. Again, we'll go back and check our specification for the roof brace. We have rods of 20 millimeter diameter, so going to use that. We'll go to load a family within the Australian standard. If I go to round bars, that will take me to 20 millimeter diameter rod, 20 millimeter rod. Press OK. We loaded the right rods in place. Now I need to draw the brace from the end of this strut all the way to the end of that strut, and a cross brace the opposite direction. So the easier way to do it, rather than trying to be super careful and go there, you may click on the wrong point, like the intermediate point of the rafter. I can just hover over this strut and type snap to end, SE. By typing SE, that will snap to the end of this strut, and the same thing there, SE. Place another one, and that's done. See guys, it doesn't take long at all to draw those, and this is an important comment because I'll discuss it with you in a second. When you try to mirror, that things may go out of shape, it's better not to mirror it, just draw it easier and quicker. I'm just hovering over the member I want to connect to and simply just typing SE, snap to the end of this member. Done. Save project. Okay, so this is our roof bracing is done. The reason I was saying just it doesn't take long and it's better to draw it, because if I try, for example, now to look at it from the top and try to copy this bracing, I've selected everything, and by pressing shift and selecting the grid, and I try, for example, just to mirror them to this line here, see what will happen. So all these bracing will be not located in the right position, simply because we constrained our bracing to these members here, and by just mirroring or copying, it doesn't do the right thing. Okay, so just easier to not mirror or copy for bracing, regardless, for roof, wall bracing, all of this, just redraw them please. Doesn't take long, especially when you get used to it. Doesn't take long at all. So I'll undo. As you've seen, to go back to 3D, I can draw this bracing here quickly. I'll start with the struts in the form of a beam, so I'll choose that to be the 75 by 75 SHS. I want this to be in the center of these rafters, so I can just either type SM, snap to middle of this rafter, and then SM again to the middle of this rafter. Make sure that we are on the right plane. If I zoom in here, it looks in the right plane. So if I just look at it in the elevation view, this is the new strut that we installed, which is it's in the right rotation, matching the rafter fall or slope. Copy this 7020. I can select now and just copy it again. We agreed 6,700 to that side, and I have to move them down, the 3 of them. I'm not typing SA anymore because I've got other members I don't need to move. I can move them down now. I've got the disjoint checked. I'll uncheck the constraint. Now I can just move them down by 200 millimeters we agreed on. Now go to 3D, select them all, and I can mirror them. Go to the west elevation, mirror dice. Got them here, see them in 3D, draw the pricing between them. I'll go to VR and choose the right numbers, 20mm rods, SE, SE, wrong location, undo, Ctrl Z, so SE to this end. I need to draw another one from here to there. Looks like I missed the rod this direction. Done. Save, and that would be our pricing already done for the roof. We'll create similar pricing now for the walls. The same approach, I'll just draw the struts between them in a form of a beam. The strut is made of the same size, I'm assuming 75 by 75, so I'll just use that, and snap to middle SM from here to there. And for these struts I can mirror them, so if I go to the west elevation, can mirror this to that grid line, and these two, if I go to the north elevation, I can just simply mirror them to this grid line here. That's done. Now I need to place the bracing between them. The bracing for dice will be using the equal angles. Let's check what was the size for these equal angles. 75 by 75 by 6 equal angles. So let's load that. First of all, we choose the brace, load the family, we go to EA, which is the equal angles. No, wrong one. We'll choose the 75 by 75 by 6 millimeters. That's what's specified there. Yep. And the same thing, same approach. See, snap to end. And when you get this comment here, say the beam or brace is slightly off axis, that's fine, because you've got this strut here on a slight angle and this strut here is completely horizontal. That's fine, we can adjust that with the connection, shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so I just continue what you're doing, don't worry about this. And again, SE, I'll get the same comment in a second, that's fine. I won't get it here if you notice, because both of them are perpendicular to each other. Got the pricing that side here. The same, if I try to copy them, they will create lots of issues. I will avoid that by straight away just continue doing what I'm doing. And done. See guys, it doesn't take long to draw these pricing, so please just spend the effort to get it done quickly rather than trying to copy them from one end to another, and they will create lots of issues as we've seen. All I need to do now, just copy these struts, the two edge one here and that one there, two edge struts plus the two beak ones, those ones here, to all frames. Simply those will work as a separation members between the frames to keep the frames spaced at the right spacing. So if I just select them from here, and I can go to the side view and choose copy, make sure multiple is selected, I can just copy them to all locations, all the frames. That's done. This is our frame as a preliminary or the main structure of the frame. I'll save and we'll continue on the next video.